So today we're going to present parts of a project that we're working on, a research project that we started recently, and it's called Hiroba, Learning from Japanese Public Space. And just to start, I'm going to say quickly about who we are. I think it's nice to present ourselves. My name is Samuel Michaëlsson. I work at White Architecture, trained as an architect and visualizer, but I'm also working a lot with research projects, especially connected to Japan past years. So, and this is Anna and Yosuke. So, yeah. If you want to say something about yourself.
My name is Anna Kawai. I'm an architect in Billboys architecture. I moved to Sweden 5 years ago, and I studied at Shimbashi in Tokyo. I'm growing up. I grew up in Tokyo.
My name is Yosuke Tsuga, and I'm also architect, and I'm based on Tokyo, and I have my own architect office, and started maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and I also I'm research project at the same time. That's why we met in Tokyo, and I just started to think about what's difference between Sweden and Japan. Nice to meet you. We talked about it too.
So also, before I forget, I have to thank the sponsors to this project, which is Scandinavia Japan Sasakawa Foundation. That has helped me a lot, enabled me to travel to Japan many times, very kindly, and also RQ, which is a research fund that is run by White Architecture, and also White, of course, I have to thank. So, yes. So this is kind of the timeline of the project, and just quickly how it started. As Yosuke mentioned, I was in Japan 2019 to interview around 20 young Japanese architects, where Yosuke was one of them, and that's a different project, but related to this. And that's how we met, and we started discussing kind of differences and similarities between Sweden and Japan, and that was the starting point. And then also Anna joined. We've been collaborating before with similar projects. Some of you might have joined the Fujimori workshop, where we burned lots of wood at Frihamnen in Gothenburg several years ago. We also had a lecture here with him. So we have collaborated a lot as well. So we're kind of the team of the project, as you can see in the right corner. And then we have Junpei Suzuki, who is also an architect and photographer based in Tokyo. And he is responsible for documenting all the projects and our case studies in Tokyo. And then we have, I should also say that the project started July, so last month, but we have actually worked on it for quite a long time, more than a year, but only online. So that's been quite difficult. And now, thanks to Sasakawa, we could buy a very expensive flight ticket to Yosuke so he could come here, and we have worked for a few weeks now, which has been really good. So the project's been going on for a while, but this is kind of now we've started actually working. And I'm not going to go over all the names of the people that we have are kind of going to interview and meet, but two of them we're going to present today because you two met these two guys, Sonoda-san and Tsuchihashi-san, in Osaka and Tokyo, right? Yeah. So we have two interviews to show you today, but this is just to kind of explain what we're doing. It's a research project, and we're interviewing people and kind of putting other research together. Yes, I think that's got it. Okay, so
We can ask one question.
oh yes, sorry.
How many people have been in Japan? If you...
Yeah.
One side.
More on this side. But okay, yeah, it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
I think there is quite a lot of Swedish people that go to Japan. It's nice. Okay, so before we explain what is Hiroba, which is the name of the project, we thought that we might introduce two more famous Japanese concepts. The first one being ma, and it's a bit difficult, so I have to read. But you can kind of translate it to negative space, pause, gap, empty space. But it's present in many different ways. For example, in karate, it's like the distance between the two people fighting, and in this kind of painting, it's the blank space, the negative space. And in a tea house, for example, or in a traditional Japanese architecture, it's the space between the beams, kind of. And this is very simplified, but the interesting thing about this, which is written there, I'm going to read, may also refer to the perception of space gap interval without necessarily requiring a physical compositional element. This results in the concept of ma being less reliant on the existence of a gap and more closely related to the perception of a gap. So it's kind of ambiguous in a way. It's not so strict, which is kind of a running theme. And in an architectural context, we picked as an example Nishizawa's Moriyama house, because it's quite a good example of this gap in an urban context. So it sits in this area, which has a lot of gaps between the houses. But then he sort of tried to recreate this within a smaller plot with these. He took these like regular units and broke them up into smaller units. And I'm just going to read the highlighted text. In these residential areas, spaces that anyone can pass through blend together with private spaces. That's kind of talking about, in an urban context, how nothing is kind of 100% private or public. This is kind of in between. And as for N, that's the second concept. I'm just going to quickly... This one is a bit more abstract, but you can translate it to relationship and link, and also destiny as a mysterious force that binds two people together, opportunity to meet someone and start a relationship. And traditionally in architecture, it's this is the best example: inside-outside space, engawa, which is kind of like a veranda type of space, I think. And yes, a lot of difficult words here. But these are important just to understand. This is an architectural example again of how this can manifest. And it's a house in Yokohama by On Design, which the ground floor is kind of transparent and very open, and the architects wanted to create architecture that didn't divide people through walls, but is kind of open and creates a nice place where people can meet up and have different communal activities with the neighborhood and also the different people living in this building. So it's kind of a nice example. So hopefully that didn't confuse you more, but yes, Anna will try to explain what is Hiroba.
I'd like to introduce the term Hiroba. It's a Japanese word and it's a quite general word, but it's an idea of public space. And, if you write in Chinese characters, it's like that. But Hiroba means like public square, plaza, piazza, forum. But these Chinese characters also have like individual meanings. It's the first one. It's a hiro. It means wide, broad, spacious, and the next one is like location, space, but. So if you translate directly, it's like wide space or broad space, but it's not only about the space, like the location. It's also about more ambiguous idea or dynamic idea. So there is one book that is called Nihon no Hiroba, and it describes actually the idea of Hiroba. If I read, it's a dynamic process rather than a static physical place. The Hiroba emerges by Hiroba-ing through spontaneous citizen action. Seasonal festivals amplify the effect of Hiroba-ing and have a magic that temporarily transforms space into huge meetings places accessible to all. So it's like, if there's some place that is not Hiroba, people also make the place as a Hiroba. So it's not only about prepared space. And we will see some examples. One is Akasaka Juku. It's a historical example that was in Japan, 17th, 18th century, and there was a lot of post towns that has a lot of inns because there was a huge street between Tokyo and Kyoto that is two biggest city in Japan, and there was a lot of people that goes between, and so they need some places that stay. And if you see it, so there's a lot of inns along the street, and you can see the buildings inside is open up to the street, so you can sit down as the place that Samuel explained, like Engawa. So you can see that it's super interactive space between street and buildings. So we would say that the building affect a lot to the public space. And another example, it's also in the same period that like Soba restaurant, but it's like a noodle restaurant in the same time, and it actually shows the inside of the restaurant, but they have art floor, so and huge street inside of the restaurant, so they use as a outside space almost, and there's a serving station in the middle, and there's also a lot of different platforms of eating areas, and so you can see that they are quite dynamic, and they don't stay at the same place, and what they do is also not just eating, but also mingle, chat each other, and everything is moving all the time. So it's kind of an atmosphere that Hiroba has in common. And we will explain about more our analysis.
Yeah, so we just started to analyze, not that much clarified yet, but we can say this, as we can see that the concept of Hiroba is almost everything comes from the street. So if it's wide, something happened in that place. So that means we can say just two kinds of space can be and in a basis of our research. And one is the array, and one is the street. And so this is a kind of the showing the size, difference of the sizes. Then, and this is the kind of existing. I will show you some existing buildings or cities. And this is the Tsukishima. It's located in front of the ocean, Tokyo Bay, and this is expanded area from Edo period, and this area is basically for the the workers for the industry, big factory. And this is burned out at Tokyo Kanto earthquake. It's in 1923, but it doesn't burn from World War II bombs. So this is existing from that 1923. I must say, this is the kind of, you can see that this is also this is almost all housings, but this is a kind of row house. It's very common to live in cities. And the one entrance have one family there, and that family can expand their space into the out to the alleys, and they bring some greens and bikes and the washing and drying the clothes or something we can see in this alleys, everything. And this is kind of based. We can say this is the kind of the space by the daily life. And we can say some different places. Almost all are expanded area. The area is kind of they are using as an expanded area from inside to outside. And this is different places. The Shimbashi. The Shimbashi is the biggest, one of the biggest cities in Tokyo, and this is the place is very special for the train starts from this place is how do you put it? That's the space that trains start from these stations. This is the first station. There was the first station in Japan. So that's why that is very much the many people want to come, and this is a kind of termination of the train. So that's why there's so many small restaurants here. And this area is, as I said before, that this is also bombed from the World War II, and so there was so many black markets, the small black market in front of the stations. And so this is a kind of redevelopment of that areas, and so that's why the owners of the small restaurant can spread it into the cities, and this is that phenomena has been created this kind of feeling. And then also this you can see that the izakaya, the restaurant, and they are using the street as their expanded spaces, and also in under the railway bridge. And this is very famous street in Ginza, and this is you can see this is the people walking this street, but usually that's the right side. You can see that's the cars. Usually this is for the cars, but on Sunday, every Sunday, this is for the pedestrian street. So this comes from this exists almost 50 years, and it's because of the economic expanding time, and it have the motorization, like that's the cars and many cars and the car accident in that cities, and this is very famous for the shopping areas. So people want to come here, but the car it's very bad timing of the car accident that time. So the government decided to open up once in a week, and this is the kind of special. But this is also we can see this kind of street using as the pedestrian in New York, Times Square, and Paris, and Paris no the big street. most famous street.
Just
And also, this is not special, but this exists 50 years, so it's quite rare, I can say. Yes. This is Gion Matsuri from Kyoto, and this is, you can see that for many people, it's now almost packed in these places, but it's now that's the center of the float is now moving to the one side, one direction. And this is the most popular days in this festival. It's will be happening in 1 month, and so the full of people here and want to see how the float looks like, and this is kind of now stopping and connected to the inside. This is a kind of just climbing up the float from the existing buildings. So this is not that the kind of the usual case, but this kind of festivity to how the festival can change the atmosphere very entirely. We can change that place, and of course this has the connection between inside and outside using the float. This is kind of nice example of how to use the street.
You want to show the video?
Ah, yes. What video?
we'd like to show one Japanese festival that use street.
This is not Gion Matsuri, but it is funny to see. So,
This is in
to see the street.
It's in Osaka.
Yes.
それではひかるちゃんも
So everyone
この
want
祭
to
りをリクエストにお答えしてたっぷりご覧いただきましょう
pull the float as fast as possible.
凄まじい数そしてむちゃくちゃに突っ走る人
Yeah.
ほとんどが将棋倒し前に進んでいませんそして毎度繰り返される大転倒
Yeah, sometimes happens. So, but
張り倒すどつき倒すめり込む車が1台1億円以上しかしバックその重さは約4トンほとんど凶器にすらなり得る何が人々を駆り立てるのかだんじりの醍醐味はいかに速く走りながら角を曲がるかこれをやり回しと呼ぶその数々の技ご覧いただきましょう
this is very famous crank. And yeah, easy to break the building. So the building is covered with concrete. So
この一瞬の美しさ
maybe
子供たちは見せられ子供のように走りそして転げ回る
your YouTube. Yes. Sorry for interruption of this. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of the how to use the street is of course that's reaction of the street and the architecture. So the street, how behave the street is very much related to the how to make the architecture. So this is actually my project. I have done 5 years ago, and this is called the community station. This is under the railway bridge, and this Chuo line. It's from Shinjuku to the west. And we have tried to make this space as much we can. We also we have some tenants, the possible tenants before the buildings, but it's not so huge. So we just create some small space under the railway bridge, but it's almost hiding the infrastructure. So that's might be not good for the tenants. So we have created some kind of frame and just showing this is the kind of it looks like inside space, but but this is not actually nothing here. So this kind of contradiction of how do you call it, ambiguity of the inside and outside can be, we can try in this project. So yeah, sometimes that's the event will happen in this place under the bridge, and yeah, this is the market, and they want to use the existing settings as much as possible. That's the girl is in front of the columns, and this family is selling their small stuff, and they are using the white background, and so this is kind of yeah, we have created some the ambiguous settings as much as possible in these buildings, and almost, but inside space is very limited. Then this is the friend's project now recently completed, and this is bonus track from.
Point out where it is.
Yes. So yeah, so yes, that's true. This is so much nice combination with the surroundings. So yeah, so this is very much like the existing buildings, but that is my the friend's concept of the space, and this is the detached houses areas, but actually this is now this space have the first floor have the commercial space, so it looks like detached houses, but the first floor is open to the public, and but it's very much limited because it's usually that's the housing plot have to be housing area, building area is very limited for the single houses, so it's not it's not enough for making the commercial spaces. So they use their house. The first floor is the commercial floor, and the second is their housing, but it's not enough. So they are using the outside space as much as possible. So that this kind of limitation of space can affect the outside space. Yeah. So now we can, more understandable the research. I know. So I can. I can. I have interviewed the two different urbanists, and they are very much. They can talk about more about the concept of Hiroba. Maybe you can understand more. So I hope you see from
it's a part of research that we have interviewed these two people, and they are both urbanists, and he's an architect as well. And our point is that how we can create that kind of charming Hiroba in Sweden, or I don't know. I want to understand how they try to make it.
This one first.
Design. So it's also free discussion, but it's nice to talk.
I need a charger, but also the sound is. We didn't manage to get sound, so the sound is from the projector. I hope that's okay. But we have subtitles.
要はヨーロッパ、欧米における広場っていうのは結構重要な獲得された空間であり、それが公的に用意されるってことは結構意味のあることで、それが宗教だったりの教会と結びついて教会広場だったり、市場と結びついた市場の広場、市場広場だったり、そういうものが体系としてできてきたと思うんですが、日本の場合はそうじゃなくて幅広の道があって、そこで会話が行われるとか、やっぱりその歴史的に見て、広場はゼロとは言わないですよ。やっぱりこの縄文の時代から縦穴式住居が円形に環状に作って真ん中広場的に使われたりとか、そういうのがあるにしても、その権力者というかその都市として計画的に広場を作るっていう文化がそんなになかったんじゃないかなと思います。どっちかというと今の日本でやられてることも ペースメイキングの話とかタクティカルアーバニズムとかの話も、あまり広場じゃない場所を広場化して使って広場にしようっていう動きなわけですよね。それは講義で見たら広場です。要は人が集まって自由に使って楽しく何かそこがあって、そこに行った人が引き寄せられる場所というのが広場なんだとすると、そういう場所的な使い方をすることから何かそこを広場化していこうっていう動きで、やはりその計画的広場っていうものが薄いんじゃないかと。でそれは、前にお話しした都市計画制度にも現れていて、やっぱり強いのは、日本に強いのは道路なわけですよね。都市計画道路っていうのは、道路を通しますっていうのは強くて。あんまりなんか言葉のニュアンスとしてはあんま好きじゃないですよね。っていうのも、プランニングするってことはいろいろな意味を本来持ってるはずなんですけど、やっぱ日本だと計画あって設計みたいな、そういう感じじゃないですか。計画はなんか前提を決める。それは間違ってないんですけど、僕がすごい思ってるのは、やっぱりそのプランナーはデザインのことをよく分かってないとダメで、要は結局先ほどの何で決めるんですかねっていうのは、僕出来上がる空間だったり空間体験で決まると思ってて、要は空間体験のことを想像してプランニング立てないと、だから必要十分にいいものになるわけじゃないんですけど、そうやらないとダメだろうというふうに僕は強く思いながらやっていて、最後のよりどころは結局そこで、自分がプランニングというかその前提を決めるような段階だと、その決めたことによってどういう結果になると思ってこの前提を決めてるかっていうのがはっきりあるっていうことだと思うんですよね。
He's both urbanist and also architect, and he can design like in detail in architecture also. So that's why his idea is people must understand when they make a regulation or the first planning. People have to image the last result. So both way is good.
そもそも道の文化なので、やっぱりそういうちょっと建物と道端の部分で、ちょっとした例えば街道筋の茶屋が出て、でそこにちょっと座ってお茶を飲んでっていうのが、建物と道路の間みたいなところでやっぱそういうシーンが、日本のその木造で柱張り構造じゃないですか。で壁構造じゃないから、やっぱり外部と内部の境界が非常に曖昧で中間領域みたいなものがあって、そこで、プライベートな空間とパブリックな空間が、いい意味で干渉し合って、なんですか、広場的になるとか、そういうものが日本の広場のもともとにあるアイデンティティみたいなものなのかなっていう気はしてますね。運営面とか、そのリスクを誰が取るのか、何があった時にリスクを誰が取るかって、そこがすごく大きい気がしています。で、日本はもともと天下の行動と言われたように、基本的には江戸の頃だったら幕府が基本公共の土地っていうのはお上の土地なんで、全部法律的なもので仕組みを上層部が決めて、国なり行政的な組織を決めて、上下脱で下ろしていくので、今も基本的にそうなってるわけですよね。道路公募にしても、広場の条例にしても。そうすると、やっぱりその曖昧な使い方で自由なやり方をされちゃうと、それでもし何か事故があった時に、おそらく海外だと、基本は自己責任だよねっていうこととか、その想定しているものを全部細かく決めとかなくても、何か起こって大体の人が大方これは彼が悪いよねとか、こっちの管理上の問題だよねっていうのが、でもそれは分かるよねっていう暗黙のリテラシーでやっていける部分なんですけど、日本の場合はそのリスクを多分過度に恐れるんで、もう最初から全部決めとく。想定し得ることを全部書き出してでそれに対してこの場合は誰がどうとか、 それが発生しないための予防策を全部やっておきましょうっていうのが今の、鉱物管理、公の空間の管理で、行政も基本はそうだし、あと道路、広場も一部そうですけど、人が通るところは警察が道路交通法に出てきますが、そういうところは結構硬いですよね。相当それがガチガチになってるので、そこで曖昧さがなくなっちゃってるっていう面もそう多分にあるかなと思いますね。まさにその運用上の話で、やっぱり例えば市内、大体公園とかそうですけど、都市公園条例で市内の公園すべてを全部同じルールで管理するっていうのがベースになってるんで、そうすると基本的に、どっか1個で問題がありそうだと、それを例えば禁止します。火が花火やる公園とか、ここでは禁止しない。そうすると、花火実際やっても問題ない森の中の公園みたいなのも全部一律で禁止になるような形なので、それをそこでスケボーだとか、そういう焚き火だとか、街の方のニーズがいろいろ実験しながらそういうものがある。で、こういうのをやりたいって強く思ってる人がいるって分かった段階で、じゃあそれを OK にするためにどうするかっていう時に、結局やっぱ、そのクレームが入って問題になることが一番管理者側が嫌いなので、そのクレームになり得る人って、周りに利害があるお住まいの方とか、でも近隣の方のところにやりたい人と一緒にも話してるんです。で、一軒一軒事情を説明して、思いを伝えて、その人たちの人となり、スケーターの代表の方も僕と同い年なんですよ。で、でも一緒にスケボーっていうのは、ちっちゃい子供たちもいるし、すごくみんな心からそれを愛しているし、町に対してもちゃんと敬意を払える子たちだから、別に悪いやつじゃないんだと。だから、ここでやれるような余地を一緒に考えさせてくれっていうのも、自治会長さんだったり、商店会の会長さん、そんな人たちにちょっと話しながら、相互理解をしていく中で、やっぱり顔が見えてくると、何かあったらじゃあ彼らに連絡しようという話で、信頼関係ができて、結果ルールとしても、まずそこだけです。そこだけの広場ですけど、そこを自由にできるようなルールをするっていうことができたと思います。歌舞伎町の今の熊劇広場が長年呼ばれてた、あそこのなんですか、カオス感この辺は先週も言ってきたんですけど、大体土曜日の朝とか日曜日の朝とか通ると、何人が倒れてて場合によっては何人の血が出てくるみたいな息してるのかしてないのか分かんないような人たちもいつつ隣でまだ酒盛りしてる人がいたりで、結構、普通に買い物来てる人がいたり、観光客がいたり、非常にカオスな
そうですね、
感じなんですが、最高だと思います。
確かに。
広場に限った話じゃなくて、日本めちゃめちゃ安全じゃないですか。で、安全ボケしちゃうっていうのもあるし、やっぱり都市っての面白さって多様でいろんな人がいて、人生で普通接点がないような人たちとか、自分の考えじゃ全く理解できないようなことが起こったりとか、そういうことってすごくある意味魅力だし、危険だと思うんですけど、そういう場所が、あんまりにも多いとちょっと困りますけど、やっぱこれだけの日本みたいな国で、やっぱ何か所かちゃんとある方が逆に都市として健全なんじゃないかなっていう。
Oh yeah. How do you summarize that? Oh yes. Sorry, we had one photo from this place. This is a normal day. People chilling out. Maybe you can explain. I've been to Kabuto, but never when it looked like this.
Yeah, this is he said this is Sunday morning. Sunday early morning. But they don't know the sun coming. So just after drinking and just sleeping there. And there's the suitcase there, but we don't know whose suitcase is. And so no one wants to take all the things, but we can see this is the kind of something happening. So we are so much safe in the city, but this is very special in Shinjuku.
And this square is also important, the European square, because there aren't that many like squares in Japan, and this is one of them. It's quite interesting how it's used in Japanese context. So it's it's quite fun. Okay, we don't have that much left, but. Yes. Okay. So just maybe I should skip kind of in the beginning, kind of talking about the people that we have met and that we want to meet. Some of the people here that are on this image we haven't met yet, but we asked them for permission to be on this slide. But David Sim, for example, we have met. He wrote this book that we brought, I think, Soft City. You might have heard of it, and it's kind of about. He worked at Gion for many years, and it's a typical Gion architecture theory, but it's quite interesting because that book has been translated to like 30 languages or something. So it's really like blockbuster kind of. It's there. So we will talk to him about kind of Scandinavian sort of setting, and also we have some colleagues of mine from White who work with Slussen at Stockholm, and also Lisa, who is kulturgeograph, and works a lot with these kind of issues and dialogue process. And in Japan, maybe you want to explain who these people are, apart from Sonoda and Tsukishima.
Also, the architect, French architect, you have seen that the owner struck in Shimokitaga. He is the son, Takuto Sando, my good friend. And he is now trying to something like how the society can be integrated into the architecture. So, and the brown guy, she is not blonde originally, but she is trying to use the ground level as an urban. So it's very easy just shutting the shutter or something. It might lose the creativity of the city. So very tough to open that kind of spaces as a kind of making a social space. The other one is Shimbashi Fujino. Fujino-san is also architect and trying to have some the ambiguous boundary in the housing areas. So he built a few houses at the same time, and we usually have our housing plot under just one house and close the wall or something. It's very common, but it's the empty space is only occupied by one house. So it's not good for us if we have several housing in one time. So we have trying to do kind of things. So maybe this can be integrated in the future in this research.
Yes.
We have more than, but it's just limited.
Just for now. And so we can. I also forgot to mention that this project will maybe go on for one more year, and now we're in the process of doing interviews and studying case studies and so on until March or something in springtime. And from then on, we will start putting together some kind of guidebook and try to organize some symposium or conference, and hopefully we can have a small exhibition. And this is multiple Tanaka's example of a typical sort of yatai, it's called in Japanese. It's like a small food truck type of thing. So it would be, that's something we would want to try to build maybe as part of the exhibition, just to try and sort of see the limit of how much of the streets can you take over. And that's something that she explored a lot. And these are just 2 examples of guidebooks. One I think is by White, and one is very detailed about London's public realm. And in August, so in 1 year we'll try to be finished with this project, but it's kind of, we're not sure how long it's going to go. Then we have maybe some questions for the audience or just everyone here, because it's, I hope no one was disappointed with we haven't got so many profound things yet, maybe so many findings, but it's very early on in our research, and hopefully this is the start of some kind of dialogue, and we really want to involve more Swedish architects in this process. So we just put these questions here as a question for you rather than the other way around. But of course you're very welcome to ask questions if you have any. But I think that's it. Thank you.